Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's webinar. We've got quite a few people on this evening. We're just seeing some people drift in. So while we get warmed up, get acclimatized, while you grab a coffee, whatever else, set for the next hour, perhaps you could just find the question box, if you could, on the control panel, and just pop a quick note in there just to let me know where you're dialing in from this evening. It's always useful to know who's on the line. And where you're from, and also please let me know if you can see the screen, which has got the Career Codex logo, a picture of Judy and I, and some narrative on there. If you could do that and just drop that into the question box, that would be absolutely fantastic, please. Just so we make sure we're all good to go. So this is the second Transatlantic webinar that I've ran this year. Big into collaboration. And I've got Judy Hoberman on the line this evening with me, who'll join us shortly. I'm going to be talking about executive networking for successful job search, and there's going to be some great opportunity at the end to ask some Q&A. Please stick around for that. The Q&A for me is always the most interesting bit, because that's when you get the opportunity to answer or ask specific questions about your specific situation. So yeah, let me welcome a few people on this evening. Welcome to Charlie, who's based just down the road from me in the UK. Hello to Mel over in Denmark, in Copenhagen. Hello to David in Dublin. Hello to Dan. Hello to George, and a few other people popping in. So yes, everyone can see the screen. Good. We've passed the technology test. We'll just give it a couple more minutes. Just to let a few people join and get to grips with the technology. So yeah, second Transatlantic webinar, and what a day to be doing a webinar in collaboration with the US. Obviously, many of you will have seen the news this morning. I've been glued to it. A very interesting time, I think, and I'm not sure whether Judy will have any comments, but she may do. We'll find out when I get her onto the line in a little while. So okay, I think we're about on time. So let's kick off. Tonight we're talking about executive networking for successful job search. What you need to know and how to do it right. So what you need to know and how to do it right. And executive networking is critical for finding success in the executive job market. And we're going to talk about some different types of executive networking this evening that really should be part of your job search strategy in looking for that next opportunity. So let's just do a bit of housekeeping. Now, this is a go-to webinar platform. It's probably the best platform in the business. You can also hear the sound, you can see the visual, which is a great start. If for any reason the internet connection breaks or whatever else happens, please just bear with us. We'll log back into the platform and we'll continue the webinar. If something goes wrong your end, you lose sound, you lose visual, or whatever else, the best advice, because it's really difficult to fix the problems on the line while we're live, best advice would be to log out and log back in, and we'll still be here. And if you do miss anything, of course, there's a recording taking place as we speak now, and that will be made available at the end. You've all found the question box, which is great. Now, this is a way you can interact with me and also Judy throughout the presentation. And at the end, we're going to take some questions. This is your vehicle to ask some questions. If, as we're going through, you have a question that springs to mind, please drop it in there so you don't forget. I'll either deal with it there and then if it's very relevant to what we're talking about, or we'll pick it up at the end. And I think Judy and I will have a commitment to stay on the line to deal with questions as long as you've got some questions for us at the end. So we're in good shape in terms of the technology. So what are we going to discuss specifically today? Well, we're going to discuss three things. The first thing is how to network in the offline world for successful executive job search. So essentially what this means is face-to-face networking. You go into a room, you meet people face-to-face. It's that kind of scenario that we're talking about. And for many people that I talk to, this can be one of the most daunting things that people do if they've never done it before or are not very used to doing it. And Judy's going to kick off with sharing some information on that about how to do that properly. We're then going to talk about how to use social media strategies to build a powerful network in the online world. And whether you like it or not, social media is critical now to business, to job search. It transcends all aspects of our life. And I'm going to share with you some of my strategies for successful job search using social media. And of course, with social media, it really is a prelude to a face-to-face meeting, because in the world of job search and finding a new position, you've got to meet people face to face. And one of the best ways to establish who you want to meet face to face, if you're an employer or a recruiter, is through somebody's social media presence. We're then going to talk about how to nurture relationships and keep the conversation going. And for many, this is a big challenge. You've met somebody at a networking event, you have built a relationship with somebody online, but what happens next? How do you keep that conversation going? And then, as I said at the end, we'll have about 15-20 minutes for Q&A, so please store up your questions. Make sure you've got some questions for us at the end. Okay, so I'm joined this evening by Judy Hoberman. Judy is an executive coach, sales trainer, speaker, and author. She's written a number of books, but the book that I've read is a book called Selling in a Skirt. And you may wonder why I've read a book called Selling in a Skirt, because I don't tend to wear skirts. But in actual fact, it's a great read, because it talks about how sales works and how sales works differently between men and women. And I've certainly picked up a lot from that book, and I'm sure Judy will talk to us a bit more about some of the insights from the book later. She's done a TED talk recently, and I should probably explain how we got to know one another. We actually met because the last webinar I did earlier on this year with Elizabeth Lyons, Judy was on the call, and Judy was one of the attendees. We connected on LinkedIn afterwards using the online world. We then brought that into the offline world, albeit online. Had a face-to-face meeting on GoToWebinar. Judy's based over in the States, so it was a bit far to travel. I built a relationship from there, and then planned this webinar to deliver this content to you this evening. So I'm going to pass over to Judy now, just to give her own introduction. So Judy, hopefully you are here with us this evening.
I am here, but it's morning here or afternoon here.
Of course, sorry, yes, of course.
Yes, I'm starting the day and you're like already done with it, but I'm excited to be here. And yes, we met online and we have continued our relationship, and that's what it's all about. So it's pretty awesome how many people you can actually meet and start a relationship with, and it creates all different opportunities. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me.
No problem at all. Really looking forward to it. And perhaps a couple of minutes on the book that I've read and I think is fantastic. Recommend anyone to read this. What was the catalyst behind the book, and who's it specifically aimed at?
The catalyst was my very first business coach. She told me that I had 30 years of experience in sales in my head and I had to get it out. And after we argued for about a month, I actually decided to sit down and write a book. And really what it's about, it's geared towards women that are in sales who either don't like sales because they don't feel like they're being authentic, or maybe they don't have a really good relationship with money and they're not sure if they should be earning this. Or it could be that they're in male-dominated industries, or a combination of the three. The other half is for all the men that work with women, because they either have to sell to, buy from, work with, and it's all about communication and relationships. And so it's an easy read, but it's fun, and there's stories in there, and after you hear me for a while, when you read the book, you actually hear me in the book.
Yeah, I did that. No, it's a great book, great book. Okay, so I'll do a quick introduction. I know many people, well, quite a few people who are on the line this evening, but for those of you who don't know me, my name's Simon Gray. I'm also the author of a book, 3 books in fact. Probably the most relevant book for people on the line this evening is Super Secrets of Successful Executive Job Search. I trained as an accountant and then fell into the recruitment industry and worked as a consultant for a number of years before starting my own recruitment company in 2008, which was a tough time to start a business, the outset of the financial crisis. Ran that business for 5 years, learned a lot about business and learned a lot about how the job market really works. And the catalyst really for me to leave that business was I wanted to work individually with people to help them navigate the job market successfully. I'd gained a lot of knowledge, wanted to share this with individuals to help them navigate this tricky world of job boards, recruiters, employers, and now run a business called Career Codex, and I work with clients on a one-to-one basis through something I call the Executive Edge program, which is a 3-month program that basically takes people from very first principles about understanding how the job market works right up to the offer and negotiation stage and everything in between. I'm away from the day job. I'm a keen martial artist. I spent a couple of years in Japan back in 2006, 2007 on an 11-month boot camp with the Tokyo Riot Police. It's called the Senshusei program. It was a tough course in Aikido, but taught me a lot about discipline and determination, which are two of the traits that are very important as an executive when it comes to your successful job search. So I'm going to compare and host this evening. Judy and I are going to flow back and forth in terms of some of the education and content, and then we're going to share out the questions at the end. Okay, so let's kick off with the first point and or the first topic of conversation: how to network in the offline world. And I'm going to pass over to Judy to kick us off with this, and I'll jump in at the end. So, Judy, do you want to crack on and tell us a bit about your thoughts and experience in this space?
Absolutely. And what I want to say first of all is about networking itself. According to Adam Small, who is the founder of Strategic Business Network, it is the single most powerful marketing tactic to accelerate and sustain success for any individual or organization. That is a huge statement for someone to make about networking. So when we talk about networking, I like to talk about doing it with intention, because what happens is relationships are truly the lifeblood of any of our businesses, and it's the ability to connect effectively and efficiently, and it's going to open up so many doors for you. But the rule of thumb is to build the relationships before you need them. So even if you've secured a new position, don't forget about nurturing the relationships that you've already built, because you never know why or when you might have to reach out to them again. So let's talk a little bit about what we do here in the States. It's probably similar, almost identical, but it might be, some of the words might be a little bit different. And don't get me wrong, we can build very strong relationships online, as Simon and I have talked about, but we're going to talk about that in a bit. So, networking with intention, what does it actually mean? It actually means that you're attending a networking event or going to one that has your target audience in it. Now, it's fun to hang out with your friends, but when you think about growing a business, getting a job, think about who you want to be surrounded by. Who are they? Where do they hang out? And then think about some strategic partners, the ones who already are in the space you want to be in, whether it's recruiters or CEOs of companies or hiring managers. When you choose to go to events that either your target audience or your strategic partners are in, you're networking with intention. When I first started my company, I knew I needed to do this, and yet I networked everywhere and I wasted a lot of time. If you looked at my calendar, I looked popular and busy, but I got nothing out of it. So I sat myself down and tried to figure out where I should be and who I should be with. And once I did that, I was introduced to so many different people, and so many different opportunities fell in my lap. So first, that's the first thing, is trying to figure out where they are. Then you have to decide who's actually in your network. Who is it? So no matter what you're looking for, you need to find and work with the people that are able to make choices for you. Sometimes they're easy to find, sometimes they're harder to connect with, but other times they're just around you and you're not even sure. If you think about Kevin Bacon, the actor, who talks about 6 degrees of separation, someone in your network knows the person that you need to meet. So really, we're sitting at 2 degrees of separation. The world is so much smaller today, so you have to start letting people know what it is that you want. And one way is having walking ambassadors, people that know you, people that trust you, people that like you, people that want the best for you. You let people know what you're looking for and where. And then I always talk about organizing them so you can make sure that you're feeding your network well. So here's a thought for you. If you make a list of all the people that are in your network right now and put them into different buckets, it could be your friends, it could be family, it could be colleagues, it could be anybody. Think about those people, and how about some of the new people that you met when you were networking? They're all in your network, so organize them so when you're looking to reach out for yourself, you know how to look at a certain group of people. I like to color code everyone so I can see who goes where at a simple glance. And then you have to make sure that you also are feeding your network. So just because you're going to a network with intention, because you're looking for a job or you're looking for a connection, you also have to make sure that you make sustenance for your network. People that are going to be able to help you. If you don't do anything for them, they in turn will not do anything for you. You can't always be the taker. You have to be the giver. So who are you looking for? It's your target market. It's a group of people that you want to make sure that all of the efforts that you're doing will turn out into some results for you. Now, my first business coach, the one that made me write the book, she asked me who my target was, and I gave her a few lame answers, I guess, and she said, no, we're going to really dive into this. Well, when we really did, and I described who that person was, I was able to see this person. She almost like jumped out of a piece of paper at me because I knew exactly where she would be hanging out and exactly what she looked like, what the demographics were. So if you don't know who that is, please make sure that you're going to be doing that as well, because that is super important. If you don't know what it is that you were looking for, if you're looking for a new job and you're not sure what industry it is, really identify the industry, identify the position, and be able to really talk about it. But the other part of that is, like I said, you have to be able to support other people. You have to take out that what's in it for me attitude, because this is not about you at all. You have to take that spotlight and turn it on to the person you're speaking to. Your goal is to support and serve, and in return, it will come back to you tenfold. And I always say you want to be interested, not interesting. So remember that even if you're hoping to get some referrals for a new position, you have to be willing to come into this relationship not expecting anything in return. The unfortunate truth is that right now, they don't care about you. They have to figure out what you're going to do for them. So with that said, as a reminder, be prepared with the response to the questions, who do you serve and how can I support you? Because a lot of times when people ask you because they're ready to help you, you have nothing to say. You look at them with a blank stare, and you may not get that second chance. And you could be blowing a great opportunity. So start going to networking events that have your target audience there or your strategic partners. You already know who the target is, and if you don't, start working on that. And as a matter of fact, make sure you know what, who, whatever it is that you can help them with as well. So dive down really, really deep. And the people that are already in your space, those are your strategic partners. Those are the ones you want to make sure they understand exactly who you're looking for, that they complement you, they don't compete with you, and I'm giving you marching orders, so I want you to get out there and start networking with people that are in your space. Simon, what do you think?
I think you made some great points. I particularly like the point that you made about being interested, not interesting. I think I've got that correct. You know, I always say that in any engagement with somebody new, in the first instance, it's never about you. It's always about them. That you need to listen first, understand a bit more about them, show them that you're interested in them, and that's how you build a relationship. I have quite a unique perspective on this because I actually run a networking group over here in the UK. We have 200 businesses. I'm the guy that organises it. I'm the guy that puts the event together and gets the people in the room. So I see it from the other side as an organizer. And I've been to lots of networking events over the years, and you kind of observe different types of people. I categorize these people in my book, the AL6 and the handbooks. I won't go into detail, but basically, you know, people who are not comfortable networking arrive late and leave early. And then you see the other people who run around the room trying to hand out as many business cards as possible to as many people as possible. Both are really missing the trick. If you can go to a networking event and build a relationship with one or two people that, you know, you then take somewhere else, a coffee, another meeting subsequent to that, you're on the right track. And the other thing to really get out of your head as somebody in the executive job market is you are probably not going to meet somebody at a networking event who is hiring right there and then for a position that you're looking for. It's just not going to happen. So your job really is to be memorable, engaging, and then this person will remember you. And when they're tapped on the shoulder about who do they know with regard to talent for a particular opportunity, they're going to remember you and nobody else. So you've got to get the right event. You've got to have a strategy. And that strategy, being an organizer of an event, should involve the organizer. I call these people market makers. They know everybody in the room. You know, if you build a relationship with the organizer of an event, then you've got a great relationship there. They can introduce you to people, recommend who you talk to, and it gives you some kudos knowing the organizer and being introduced by the organizer to other people. Just wanted to make one more point, and it's an important point on face-to-face networking. And if you're listening to this and you've been to a networking event recently, what do people always say at a networking event when they meet somebody? You know, they say, hello, what do you do? That's what people ask. I really try and mix this up. And I'll ask somebody, what are you working on at the moment in your business? What's the biggest opportunity that you're trying to achieve currently? And it's amazing how that kind of questioning that's different to everybody else raises the level of the conversation instantly and makes you very memorable. I call this establishing a higher baseline. It really gets the relationship off to a good start and stops that kind of superficial chit chat about what job you do and who you work for, which you can get onto that later. But I like to get into the meat of the subject first and foremost. Try it. It absolutely works, and people look a bit shocked. They don't necessarily know how to answer it, but it really does make you stand out at networking events. Thanks very much for that, Judy. We're gonna jump now into the online world. And the online world is a place where I spend a lot of time. I built 2 businesses in the online world, and it's a place that I'm pretty comfortable with now, but wasn't always comfortable with. So thinking about successful job search, well, how do you create a position online? Well, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to have a niche. You've got to know who you're trying to talk to. You've got to know where they're based, so you can be in their space online, be on the right platform where they're going to be based online, and then communicate in a language and a message that they're going to understand. This is about getting very focused, because once you've established your niche, then essentially you can have a clear message to that market segment. And until you've got that clear message, well, your message may fall on deaf ears. And thinking back to my recruitment days, I used to have candidates coming to my office. They would tell me that they were really good. They would tell me that they could do anything for anyone, and they were very flexible about what it is they wanted. They said this to me because they thought that would be what I wanted to hear, and that would give them more opportunities in the marketplace and more opportunity for me to place them in a job. The reality is it never did, because I didn't know who they were, what they stood for. I didn't really know who they wanted me to put them in front of, who I should be representing them to, and I didn't really know how to talk about them because they didn't tell me. It was a general message to a general audience. So my advice here is, in the online world and in the offline world to a certain extent as well, you've got to have focus, and focus for me always trumps flexibility. It sounds counterintuitive. You can believe the more flexible you are, the more opportunities will land on your doorstep. The reality is, the more focused you are, the more opportunities will find you. And that brings me on to the next point: inbound over outbound. So inbound and outbound is terminology relating to marketing. Some of you listening tonight may be familiar with this terminology. Outbound marketing is essentially where you go out to the marketplace and you try and find an opportunity. So you're active in finding that opportunity. The best example of outbound marketing is probably TV advertising. That's a general message to a general audience. It's paid for type of advertising. The analogy here, I guess, with the job market is somebody who comes onto the job market and relies solely on job boards or executive recruiters. They put their message out there to these people, and they're then waiting for a result. Now, job boards and executive recruiters should be part of your strategy, but you've got to engage with them in a slightly different way. What I'm talking about here, in terms of inbound marketing, which is where you need to focus your efforts, is putting out engaging and relevant content out into the marketplace in front of a target audience and waiting for opportunities to come to you. So the opportunities come to you. You don't necessarily know when, you don't necessarily know how or who through, but if you do this consistently over time, the opportunities will come to you, as opposed to you going outbound to find those opportunities. And this is a more productive strategy because you're talking to a clearly defined target audience with a clear message, with engaging content that resonates, and as a result, opportunities naturally gravitate towards you. And if you think about how employers make recruitment decisions and go out to the marketplace to recruit, they don't always go to job boards and exec recruiters first off. What they tend to do is go into this recommendation and referral world. I call this place the hidden market, and it's a place where they'll ask somebody they know, their extended network, who do you know who might be right for my business? And LinkedIn has been a huge game changer for employers, because what LinkedIn has done has allowed them to have these types of conversations online. And what employers are doing online is looking to see who's vocal, who's an expert in their sector, who they should be engaging with as a potential candidate for their business. And the best database in the world now is LinkedIn. It's given employers a real life database that's kept up to date by the individual who holds the profile that would rival any recruitment database in the world. And being an ex-recruiter, as LinkedIn evolved and developed, then LinkedIn became my database, my primary go-to place to find candidates. So what that means is you've got to be online. You've got to have an attractive shop window online, I call it. So this is how your profile looks. But then you've got to use LinkedIn proactively to create content, engaging content that's going to resonate with your target audience, because that's how you gain attention. And I talk about this thing: see me, like me, trust me, hire me. Back in the day, recruitment was, here's my CV, hire me off the back of my CV. See me, hire me. Doesn't work anymore. We've all got our filters up. We don't like advertising anymore, and that's essentially a spin-off from advertising. What people are looking for now is people to build a relationship with us, and this is what big brands are doing. It's what you need to do in the job market, and it's about putting out interesting and engaging content that's going to help your target audience, your target employer, either solve problems or further explore opportunities. It's using your expertise and opinion to go out through social media to help people get further along their journey and see you as a source of help to get further along that journey. So how do you do it practically on LinkedIn? Well, first thing you can do is status updates, and status updates are great for sharing what I call curated content. So curated content is an interesting article you've seen, something that you've found maybe on LinkedIn Pulse or through Google Alerts, and you think, wow, my connections might be interested in this. I'm going to share it with them, but I'm going to put my spin on it. I'm going to put an opinion piece around it and share it as a status update on LinkedIn. You do this consistently, your connections see it. They start to see you as an authority in your space, and it starts to work the magic. The second thing you can use is publish posts on LinkedIn, and this is created content. So these are things that you write from scratch. So this is more long form content. It requires a bit more time investment from you. You've got to create essentially a blog post. This needs to be simple in terms of its communication message, engaging, interesting, entertaining, and create value. So by the time somebody's finished the blog post, they've got some value from it. What they then do, hopefully, is they like it, they comment, or they share it, which expands your reach on LinkedIn to their audience, to their first tier connections, who will be your second tier connections if they're your first tier connection. And then groups. Third thing I wanted to talk about is groups. Groups are really the supercharged thing on LinkedIn. If you can find relevant groups on LinkedIn where your target employer is, and you start to communicate and engage in groups, you will be found. And I know this because when I was a recruiter, when I wanted to find a candidate with a particular skill set or expertise, yes, I would go to the advanced people search on LinkedIn, but I would always post a message in relevant groups and ask people in that group who they knew that might be relevant for my position. Because I knew if I wanted to use a fishing analogy, if I want to catch a salmon, what I'm not going to do is go to the ocean and hope for the best. I'm going to go to the pond where all the salmon are, because then I've got a high probability chance of catching the fish that I want. And that's why engaging in groups and being proactive in groups is so important. And one of the things you can share in groups is your published posts, because that will resonate if it's on message with your target audience, with group members. LinkedIn says you can have up to 50, be a member of 50 groups. My advice is join 50, but be active in 10. You cannot manage more than 10. And be active in those on a consistent basis. So all of this stuff I'm talking about in terms of networking and building relationship online, it needs to be done on a consistent basis. And the last point I'd make on this is this. You can have two views on LinkedIn. You can say that LinkedIn is for people that I know exclusively, or it's for people that I know and people that I don't know, people that want to connect to me. If you're in the first camp, then maybe you're missing an opportunity, because the chances of somebody, the next person that hires you, knowing them currently, probably not. So you've got to welcome connection requests from all sorts of different people, because you don't know, as Judy said, 6 degrees of separation, who they know and who they're connected to. So what I do on LinkedIn, I connect to anybody. If anyone wants to connect with me, I connect back to them. I have a rule that if they start to sell stuff to me, then I'll disconnect, but I'll give everyone the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not afraid either to connect with people that I want to connect with directly. I use a personal message. Personal message on LinkedIn is very important. Don't use the standard LinkedIn message. When you connect to somebody you don't know, you've got to tell them why you're connecting to them, what the benefit is of them connecting to you. One of the things I do, I use this principle of what's in it for them, knowing something about them. It's all about them in the first instance. So my first line in my personal message is complimenting them on an article they've written. It's seeing something on their website that's captured my attention. It's a true story, I recently read a book. It wasn't Judy's book, I read that as well, but I read another book, and I really liked the book. So I contacted the guy on LinkedIn, told him I'd really enjoyed his book. It's a guy called Tim Hughes. We connected, we had a conversation using GoToMeeting. We did a webinar together, which you can find on my website, careercodex.com. So, it just shows by being proactive and being willing to engage and be open with people, you can actually attract a lot of people to connect with you and actually build some relationships that you don't necessarily know when they're going to actually benefit you, but they will probably benefit you at some point in the future when you least expect it. And having the discipline to do this consistently without a return on your investment is one of the challenges people face. But trust me, I'm living proof that if you invest time, energy, and effort in building an online profile, opportunities will absolutely find you. Judy, what would you have to say on all of that stuff?
Well, I mean, it's almost identical to the same kind of message that it was offline, because really social media is based on relationships. If you ever look at Amazon, if you buy something from Amazon, the next time you go back, they go, "Hey, Simon, welcome back. Last time you were here, you bought this, and all your friends bought this." Well, it's based on relationships. That's what social media is. And you need to have a presence both offline and online. And if you're looking for a job, especially if you know the company that you want to look for, women more than men, but men do it as well, but women more than men become detectives. They go searching through that whole entire website and they find some little snippet of information, and they use that as something to let the prospective employer know that they have actually been on their site. So again, you can go into LinkedIn groups, which I find are very, very helpful. I agree with you. LinkedIn is probably the most amazing tool that there is. You just have to learn how to use it and use it correctly. But most importantly, remember that you are selling yourself, but you don't want to be selling. And so what you want to do is build that relationship with people. You can be the greatest person, and if nobody knows about you, you're the greatest person that nobody knows about. So you have to start putting out content, and you have to start liking things, sharing things, tagging people, or whatever. But just remember that it is all based on relationships. That's truly what it is. It's very easy to say that you want 1 million followers, you want people to like you, but really the numbers don't, you really would prefer to have 100 people that really get you and are able to refer you out to prospective employers. So it's not about that, it's about building relationships and building solid relationships.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that last point. It's not about the number of followers. That's vanity. What I look for in my content is engagement. I want
Right.
people to engage, comment, share, like, challenge me on some points. Sometimes I'll get somebody post something on one of my YouTube clips, and it's a negative comment. For me, that's a positive. It's feedback that I can utilize moving forwards, and it's somebody who's taken the time, energy, and effort to engage. I don't actively encourage negative comments, but it's engagement that's that really it's what it's all about. It's not the number of followers, the number of connections, and whatever else. On LinkedIn, the number of connections though is important, because that leads to more visibility, and the more connections you have, the more visible you are, and the wider your 6 degrees of separation. So it's a bit more than vanity on LinkedIn. Okay, let's jump into the next and final piece of content this evening. And this, for many people I talk to, is a really difficult challenge. So they've gone to the networking event, they've met somebody, they've gotten well with that person, or they've met somebody online and they think there's mutual benefit in taking that relationship further. But how do you keep the conversation going without being seen to pester or being irrelevant? How do you stay relevant in the mind of the person you've met? So Judy, I'm going to pass back to you on this to kick off, if that's okay.
Perfect. Okay, so first of all, you do have to continue the conversation because this is so important. Follow up, follow up, follow up. It's in anything that you do. If you promise something, you need to follow up. If you meet somebody at a networking event and they ask you for some information, a resume or whatever, and you say, "I will get it for you today," you better get it today because if you don't, they're thinking, "You couldn't even get me the resume. How am I supposed to hire you or even bring you in for an interview?" So remember what you promised and make sure that you do it. But for me, handwritten thank you notes, this is going to help you stand out from the rest of the crowd. So whether you're going in for a first interview or a second or a meeting with a client or a vendor, you need to write a thank you note. It lets the other person know that you respected their time and that you're grateful that you got to know them and that you do want to continue that conversation. And I would write it whether I have the business or I got the job or whatever it is. When I was selling insurance, I got more referrals from people I didn't write because I wrote them a thank you note and they thought that I actually took the time to be present with them. So whether you get the position or not, if it's simply an interview and there's a lot of people that are candidates, really just write the thank you note anyway and write it quickly. So if you're doing an interview today, write the thank you note today so they get it and you're still fresh in their mind. The other way of keeping the conversation going is to share articles. Now, I always say that content marketing is one of the best ways to show the value that you have instead of giving a sales pitch. When you build a relationship with content, it kind of like piques your client's interest because they want to see what else have you got? What else are you talking about? But remember, one purpose of having a network is to do business with them, but, and this is really important, you cannot ask for business every single time you reach out to someone because then they won't pick up the phone anymore, they won't respond to your emails. So this is the time that I always say to create a library or an arsenal of articles that you have put together that could be of interest to somebody in your network. So for instance, if I had somebody that loved to cook and loved to travel, I might send them an article that I saw about a cooking class in Italy and say, and this is all I would say, and I'm telling you, this is all you should say, saw this, thought of you, enjoy your day, sign your name, end of conversation. Don't say, when are we going to talk? When am I going to see you? When are we going to do this? You don't do that. This way, you're staying in front of them. They're showing them that you're not asking for anything, but they know that you've heard some of the things that they've said and that you've expressed interest in them. This is a win-win. So you just find something that's interesting to them, not to you, to them, send it out, and that's the end of it. But the other part of this whole thing is about the introductions. There's a few things that I would tell you. Number one, you need to reciprocate. There's nothing worse than being the giver all the time and never getting anything in return, ever. Now, again, I know you're supposed to go in with no thoughts of receiving, but imagine if all you did was take and never gave. That would circulate in the network that's building around you pretty quickly, and sooner than later, your so-called well is going to dry up. You also want to be the resource for your network. If what they need you don't have, make sure you can find someone who can. And guess what? Pretty soon that person will be part of your network as well. And you also want to have to know that people use the sniff test. They know when something's not authentic. So you don't pretend to know something or someone that you don't. I have a colleague who's told me how many people they're connected to and how many are earning 7 figures and need exactly what I have and what I do. The problem is they're a legend in their own mind. I've never gotten a referral from them, okay? Enough said. And then also keep the lines of communication open. It's so much easier to have a conversation when you don't need anything so that when you do, you can have it. Again, you build those relationships before you need it. And when you're only available or in contact with somebody when you need something, people are going to hide when they see you coming. So to be successful in business, you must have great relationships. And great relationships are formed when you connect in a positive way. So stay in touch with your network. Make sure that they know that you are in it for the right reason. If you're doing things for the wrong reason, people get it just way too quickly. So write the thank you notes, share some articles, find some content, and if you don't want to send them an article, if you find something like Simon was just talking about LinkedIn, take one of their articles and comment on it. But let me just warn you about one thing. If you make a comment and someone comments back, you have to continue the conversation. The worst thing you could do is ask someone a question or make a comment, they respond, and you do nothing. So you have to make sure that that's always been something that you keep on top of and you're consistent with it. And then the introductions, when you feel that the timing is right, that's when you open up your centers of influence and your Rolodex. Simon?
Yeah, great advice there. I think making introductions is key. The world works on recommendation and referral, but as you say, you don't open your Rolodex up until somebody's built a relationship with you and you trust them. See me, like me, trust me before I open my contact book to anybody else. Which is why, this market maker relationship I talked about earlier, building connections over a period of time with well-connected individuals is so important, because they've got the contact book that they can introduce to you, but they won't do that on day one. I totally agree with you on the sending relevant articles and not trying to sell, not trying to push the relationship too hard. I call this send tos. You find something of relevance to them. If it's personal, they have a hobby or an interest, even better. It shows you've been listening, and it's not all about business. I think keeping an eye out on people's content online, liking it, commenting, and sharing it with your network. And when you share it, tag the individual. This is on LinkedIn. Tag the individual who wrote it, so they can see that you're sharing it. That's tremendous value to them, because you're basically saying to your network on LinkedIn, this content's great, I'm going to share it with you. So it's really important. The other thing LinkedIn, just getting back into the online world, the other thing LinkedIn offers you the opportunity to do is to endorse people. So if you land on somebody's LinkedIn profile, it will prompt you to endorse them for particular skills or abilities. Now, if you know this person, you're starting to build a relationship with this person, then if you endorse them for skills and abilities that you know they have, don't just do it because it's a nice thing to do, but do it because you believe they have those skills and abilities. Then they will get a message and a notification on LinkedIn to say that you've done it. And that's a great compliment to who they are and what they're capable of doing. We're short of time tonight. We focus very much on LinkedIn, but cross-referencing somebody's LinkedIn profile to what they're saying on Twitter is a great thing to do too. LinkedIn has a functionality with Twitter, so Twitter is still an important social media channel. It's a slightly different style of conversation on there. But if somebody's sharing content on there, retweeting their content is a great compliment. Liking their content is a great compliment, and they will know that you've done it. So this is all stuff you can do in the background to keep the conversation going without actually having a direct face-to-face conversation. What I know from my own experience, if you do this continually over a period of time, when they're ready to take the relationship further, they will let you know, because they will remember you. And because you haven't pushed the relationship too hard, they are more likely to come back to you. The analogy I sometimes use here is, when you go in a shop and you've walked through the door into a department store or whatever else, and somebody comes straight up to you and says, "What can I help you with?" It puts you off. You walk out the shop. But what happens is, if you go into that shop and people leave you alone, and then after a period of time, they come up and talk to you and say, "Look, take your time. Take your time. Let me know if I can help you with anything." That's how you build a relationship. Don't try and sell too early. Don't try and get what you want too early. Think about giving the best of you before you ever think about receiving anything from anybody else. And the last point,
one of the things,
yeah,
can I just say one more
yeah,
thing?
of course, yeah.
There's also something called a silent watcher. There are people that when you put something out, it could be an article, could be a comment, it could be anything. There are people that never respond, but they're watching you.
Yeah.
And after a month or so, all of a sudden they reach out to you and they say, Simon, I've been watching you and there's a position opening up, or there's somebody that needs to know you, or whatever. And you don't even know that they were watching you.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest thing, when somebody just says, you're so inspirational, or you're so this, or whatever, can I get to know you better, or can I introduce you, or I have a speaking, whatever it is. So don't be afraid that you're not getting the response right away that you think you should be getting, because believe it or not, there are people that are watching you, and you're inspiring them, and you don't even know it. And that's the best thing. That's the best part.
Totally true. Absolutely spot on. I come across these people all the time, and when they're ready to raise their hand, they will let you know that it's time to do business. That's inbound marketing at its best. The last kind of point before we go into the Q&A that I wanted to make, which kind of summarizes where I think we've got to this evening or this afternoon, is networking is important, and we've talked specifically about executive job search. The time to network is all the time. Okay, I finished Executive Edge program today with one of my clients, and he asked me a great question. What do I do now? And my answer to him was, well, you continue to network. You continue to build your connectivity, because when you need it next time, it's going to be there. It's going to be coming to you. You don't need to go and find it. So this should never be a start-stop process. So even if you're not looking for a job, just found a job, well, still go to the networking events, still build connectivity on LinkedIn, because the best time to find your next position is when you don't need it.
Right.
And that's what
right.
marketing is all about. So we're going to throw this open to the floor now. We're actually bang on time, Judy. So that was well rehearsed, although we have ad-libbed to a certain extent.
Hey, I've got a factoid if you want it.
Go on, give us a factoid.
Okay, so networking is all about making lasting impressions. Most people put it at the bottom of their list of priorities because they don't have the time to do it. But remember, we're constantly being introduced to new people anyway, and we're not disrupting our schedule. It can help fill your pipeline. It can help you with prospecting for a new position, whatever it is. So here's the factoid. The average person knows about 250 people. Every time you meet one new person, you increase your personal prospect list by 250 people. And since each one of those people know another 250 people, you're gaining access to a potential pool of 62,500 people. You think that the odds of all of those people that you won't be able to find what you're looking for are not there? I mean, I would bet you'd find a lot more than one.
I bet you would. That's great. That's a great thing to finish up the formal proceedings on. So, does anyone have any questions? I'll just give you a couple of minutes to type in the question box. We'll see who's got some questions. Take this opportunity. Ask us whatever you want. It doesn't necessarily need to be about executive networking, but obviously that's the theme of this evening. It could be something to do with your situation at the moment. You know, you may be embarking on a job search and have a question about that in general. And while you have a think about a question, what I'm going to do is drop a couple of links in the chat box. What Judy and I agreed to do post this evening to keep the conversation going is we're both going to open up our schedules to offer a 15-minute chat with anyone on the call this evening to get in touch with us, to book a 15-minute conversation to discuss something maybe you don't want to discuss on the line tonight, something specific, kind of a diagnostic call to see if we can help you, to offer some no obligation help and advice. So I'm just going to throw a couple of links in the chat box now. If you would like to go ahead and book a call with Judy or I, this will also come out to you in the follow-up email. So if you don't pick it up from here, you'll get that in the follow-up email after tonight's webinar is open. And the other thing we'd ask you to do, it's always great to know who's on the call, is to connect with us on LinkedIn. You know, we've talked about online networking. This is a prime opportunity to make a connection, to increase your 6 degrees of separation, both in the UK and overseas. And remember, send a personal message. Let us know what you thought about tonight's webinar, and we'll both gladly connect back to you. Okay, excellent. Got some questions coming in, so let me have a quick look at that. Okay, so this is a question from Mel. Thanks for the question, Mel. It's a question for you, Judy. And Mel says, I'd like to hear more about how you use your connection buckets to manage your contact with them. So I think you spoke about categorizing your connections into different categories. What would you say on that?
Okay, so what I usually do is I will take the people that I know in my natural network. That's what I start with. So it could be my family, it could be people I've worked with before. I put them into a different list or a bucket, however you want to term it. And I color code them so I can just see right away who they are, and I'll have their contact information next to it. So it would be their name, their phone number, and their email. That's it. I don't do anything else. And when I know that I'm looking for somebody in a certain industry, I know where I can look. But I also add to the list every time I go out to a networking event. I don't collect business cards. My goal in networking is to find 3 people. That's it. Just 3, because I know I can build a relationship with 3 people. And so I'll take them and add them to the list. And what I do is when I want to develop the relationship even more, I will either pick up the phone, which is coming back in style again, or I'll shoot them an email. Yeah, I'll shoot an email and just say, I met you at this networking event. I would really like to continue the conversation. Very short and sweet. 9 times out of 10, somebody will respond back to me. The one time I usually send another one and say I might have gotten caught in spam or whatever. Hate when that happens, just trying to lighten it up a little bit. But most people I will at least have a phone conversation with. So I just keep them into buckets. So if I met you somewhere and I knew that you were a recruiter, I'm going to put you into my professional bucket and mark, what it is that you do. So I know that when I need something, I can just look at Simon and say, okay, here's what he does, and I know I can reach out to him. But it's very simple. There's nothing magical to it. It's just I categorize them so I know I can find them, quickly.
Yeah, great stuff. The other thing I'd say on that, Mel, is this. On LinkedIn, because you're going to connect to these people on LinkedIn, you can actually tag people on LinkedIn. So you can categorize your contacts, and you're in charge of that. You can create that those categorizations and then tag people accordingly. So, you can put people as recruiters, people you met at a networking event, whatever else, which helps you remember. The other thing that I do, I normally put people in my phone contacts, my iCloud account, and I always put a little note that reminds me where I met them, and anything specific about them that I should remember. So I've got quite a few questions coming in now, which is great. This is a question from Jake. Don't have your full name, so apologies. And it's a great question. I'm nervous when meeting new people and find I walk away and don't remember their name. How can I get better at remembering names? So I'll jump in quickly on this, and I'll pass to you, Judy. So first thing is talk about the nervousness. People get nervous at networking events because it's a step out of their comfort zone. It's probably a step out of their comfort zone because they don't have a strategy. They don't really know why they're there or what they're there to do. And secondly, it's going to a place and meeting people that they don't know, and it's a place that they've not been before. The thing you have to remember about this is that pushing the boundaries of your comfort zone is where the magic happens. And everybody else in that room is probably going to be feeling the same as you. And once you get that and realize that, you can relax into networking. At the end of the day, it's just two people having a conversation. We do that in all walks of life. We do that with our family, our friends. It's exactly the same at a networking event. I love this question about remembering names. I am terrible at this. I will introduce to somebody and I will forget their name immediately. What I've done to try and counterbalance this, if there's no name badges, which does help at networking events, is I will try and make a connection with somebody I know already. So the person I'm meeting might look like somebody I know. Okay, so I try and think about that person I know, something that will help me remember the name of this individual. So for example, if I met Judy, we hadn't met before, I would try and think about somebody else I know who's called Judy, what I know about that person, and try and kind of make a mental connection so that I can remember Judy's name. It's quite challenging, but with practice you can absolutely do it. Judy, over to you on that one.
Okay, so first of all, everybody's nervous about networking, especially when it's a new event that you've never gone to before. So here's my big secret, and I'm telling you it works because I am one of those people. Even though I'm a sales trainer and I actually tell people they have to do networking first, I hate to do it. So here's the secret. Go early. Be one of the first people there. When you show up early, guess what happens? People walk over to you. You don't have to walk into a group. They walk over to you and they say hello to you first. So that kind of like you can breathe and it's not a big deal and it works every single time. The second part of that is, when Simon said about being in or out of your comfort zone, when you step out of your comfort zone and you get used to that, that's your comfort zone now. It becomes a comfort zone. Now you got it. So every time you step out a little bit, just know that eventually that's going to be comfortable again. So that, we're all nervous when it happens like that. But names, so I believe it's in Japan, when somebody hands you, when they were introduced to you, they hand you a business card. In Japan, you have got to show respect by reading that business card. Don't just put it in your pocket. So really look at that business card and get the name in your head and then say, really nice to meet you, Simon. Repeat it because you'll start to get it. The other part of that is, and I know Simon and I have different views about business cards a little bit here, but for me, when I get a business card and I know it's somebody that I really want to remember and catch up with and do a relationship with, I fold down the corner before I put it in my pocket. Because then when I pull it out, I know that this is one of those 3 people that I really wanted to have a conversation with. But I've read their name, I've thanked them for their business card, when I ask them a question, so tell me, where else do you network? because that's a really good question. Wherever they're networking is where you should be networking. But I always say, so tell me where else you network, Simon. Really nice to meet you, Simon. So when you repeat it a few times, your brain naturally, latches onto it.
No, that's a really good point, and you've had a premonition about one of the next questions, which was about business cards. I, but, we do have a slightly different view. I've had business cards. I've handed out business cards. Having lived in Japan, you're absolutely right, Judy. If somebody hands you a business card, you take it with two hands, you read it, and you look attentively at it. Otherwise, it's a sign of disrespect. But
Mm-hmm.
my view on business cards are, yes, great to have some in your pocket. What I do when I come back to my office, though, I just put people directly in my phone, and I store the business card elsewhere. So what I've got into the habit of doing at networking events, I ask the person to get the phone out, we exchange contact details that way. Sometimes what I'll do on the way back to the office or wherever I'm going, I'll send them a quick text. Great to meet you at the event. I'll be in touch via email or whatever else. So it allows for instantaneous communication, and it saves you running the risk of losing the business card, which we can all do, particularly if we've collected too many. And I totally agree with you, Judy. 2 or 3 people at a networking event, absolute maximum. We've got a couple more questions. Charlie has said, can you recommend how to manage the network so that no one is forgotten as I manage my network? Okay, so I guess what you're saying here, Charlie, is that if you've got quite a few people in your network, how do you make sure nobody's forgotten? How do you know to engage with all of those people at some point in the not too distant future? I think this is where having connectivity on LinkedIn is so important, and having an inbound marketing strategy where you're putting out engaging content and sharing content, because if they're connected to you, they're going to see it, and they're hopefully going to engage with it, which will remind you to engage with them. LinkedIn has a great habit of prompting you when it's somebody's birthday, or to endorse them for skills and this, that, and the other. Take that opportunity. If they change jobs or change roles or do whatever else, it'll prompt you again. That's another opportunity that will remind you to get in touch. I think, as Judy said, you've got to prioritize people into certain categories or buckets or whatever else. And you may have a list of people that you want to keep in touch with more regularly and keep a closer eye on, as opposed to people that you don't necessarily want to keep a closer eye on. And having those categories means you treat people in slightly different ways, and you can prioritize the contacts that you want to keep in more regular contact with, because you can't keep in contact with everybody all of the time. It's impossible. Judy, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah,
Charlie?
I would also say, Charlie, that if you don't have a CRM system or some system that you use, you should get one. And you can get them, they're free. I mean, you could go to MailChimp.com and you could put your people into MailChimp. And then on a regular basis, maybe once a month, once a quarter, but on a regular basis, send out something, a newsletter kind of thing. It doesn't have to be called a newsletter. It could just be like an email. Hey, guess what? Here's something new that's going on, or something that's relevant to your network. Like the end of the year, everybody's giving up. They don't think there's any business. Guess what? There's still lots of business, whatever. And you just do it on a regular basis. But it's also your CRM system, so nobody really gets lost. And you can actually make the groups. You can have everybody in a group, or if there's people that you want to be in contact with on a regular basis, like once a week or whatever, you can make a subset of the group as well. But this way, everybody's in one place. And like I said, MailChimp is free. Up to, I don't know, it's 2,000 or 2,500 contacts. And just, you have a new position. Guess what? Announcing that, I just got a new position with, ABC company, so excited. Here's my new information or whatever. It keeps people in the loop, and it keeps your relationships going. That's one of the things that I think people forget about.
Yeah. You can. One of my clients who I was coaching this morning, he has his own blog. You can share
Yep.
that blog with
Yep.
your contact base. There's this whole thing about opting in and people opting into your list. When you meet somebody, when you engage with somebody, you can say to them, would you mind me popping you into sending you a newsletter or communication every now and again on stuff that may be relevant to you? Most people will say yes. If they decide it's not for them, they can unsubscribe. So it's just
Absolutely.
a different way to keep in touch. We're nearly out of time. We're nearly on time. I think we've got
Wow.
one. Charlie says, thanks, Judy and Simon. I'm technology based and this will work well. Okay, good. And
Awesome.
yeah, it's a good. He's going to have a look at MailChimp. Good. Any last quick question that anyone's got, please drop it into the question box. Judy, do you want to give us perhaps a quick overview, the kind of one golden nugget to take away from tonight's webinar, the one thing somebody could go out there and do and start to take action on from day one? Well, from tomorrow.
Do it. Yeah, just do it. Here's the thing. Most people don't really want to do networking, and I tell every one of my clients, I want you to add one networking event a month. Now, I would really tell them one a week, but I'm telling you, do one a month, one new one every single month, someplace that you can go where you can meet new people. You don't have to always look for a job. You don't have to always look to sell something. You don't have to always look to sell yourself. It could be a place where there are people that are like-minded, they're the same kind of thought leaders. Get yourself involved in the community, because one of the great things about the space that we're in right now, and especially the millennials are coming into a lot of our work environments, everybody's looking for a social cause, something that they can put, hang their hat onto. So find a group that means something to you if you don't need it for business purposes. But I would say go out and join something every single month. Or you don't have to join, just go in and network once a month. And then by the end of the year, you look and say, I've gone to 12 different things, and really these 3 are terrific, I'm going to continue. But I would say just get out there and do it. If you don't do it, nothing's going to happen.
Great advice. I agree with you. Yeah, just do it. In terms of the online worlds, let me set a challenge to everyone on the call this evening, and that is to engage and connect with 3 new people every single day, 5 days a week. If you do that, of course, you've got 15 new connections each week. In the space of a month, you're over 50 new connections. In the space of a year, then you're really starting to get somewhere. And if you do this consistently, it's amazing what you get back. So try that, and absolutely, you've got to use the personal message. Don't use the standard message. I hate when someone connects to me and I don't know why. Send a connection request with a personal message that's about them in the first instance, and you will rarely be turned down for your connection. So we're on the hour. Just a quick reminder, you're going to get sent an email after tonight's proceedings. If you'd like to book a call with either Judy or I, there'll be a link in there to do it. Please connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd gladly connect and let us know what you thought. There's going to be a quick survey going to pop up at the end of the webinar when we sign off, and also you'll get a link to that in the follow-up email. Please take a couple of minutes, give us some feedback. We're going to plan more of this stuff. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, then let us know. Feedback is everything. That's how everyone improves, how everyone moves forward in life. So thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. Thanks so much, Judy. Been great to collaborate with you on a very interesting day in American history. And
thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that, really.
No problem at all. So I'll sign off now. Say good day or good night, and we'll hopefully talk to you again very, very soon.